The mysterious discovery, the Arctic wilderness stretched endlessly before them, a vast expanse of snow and ice that seemed to go on forever. The air was crisp, each breath a sharp reminder of the harsh environment. It was a place few people dared to venture, but for the group of human scientists on this expedition, it was just another day in the field. They had been sent to study the effects of climate change on the region's ecosystem, a task that seemed simple enough. But that morning, as the sun barely began to rise, they would uncover something far beyond their wildest expectations. Dr. Williams, the lead scientist, stood at the edge of the ice, staring out into the distance. The wind howled through the the landscape, but he hardly noticed. His focus was entirely on the area ahead. There was something there. It wasn't just another crack in the ice or a pile of snowdrift. No, this was different. As he squinted into the distance, he could see the faint outline of a large, unusual shape buried beneath the thick layers of ice. He called over his team, and one by one they gathered around him, each of them as confused and curious as he was. The shape was unmistakably man-made, yet there was no record of anything being built or abandoned in this remote part of the world. It was almost as if the ice itself had swallowed the object whole, concealing it for centuries. "What do you think it is, Dr. Williams?" asked Sarah, a fellow scientist and his second in command. Her voice carried a mix of excitement and skepticism. "It doesn't look like any equipment we've seen before." "I'm not sure, but we're going to find out," Dr. Williams replied, his tone full of determination. "Everyone, get the tools ready. We need to get closer and see what's underneath that ice." The team quickly moved into action, setting up equipment and preparing to excavate the area. The closer they got, the more they realized just how massive the object was. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before, certainly not from Earth. Its sleek, metallic surface gleamed even through the thick layer of ice, and strange markings adorned its surface. These symbols were not like anything from the scientific data they had gathered over the years. It was alien. The team worked quickly, carefully chipping away at the ice that encased the mysterious object. Hours passed as they made slow progress, but the anticipation kept everyone focused. The strange symbols on the surface of the object seemed to shift and change as the ice was removed, almost as if they were alive, reacting to their presence. Sarah, who had been handling the equipment, called out to the others. "Dr. Williams, you might want to see this," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. The team gathered around as Dr. Williams approached her, his heart pounding with curiosity. There, in the ice, was a door. It was perfectly shaped, with smooth edges and strange markings around the frame. It looked like the entrance to a spacecraft, but this was no ordinary ship. The structure was far too large and too advanced. Whatever it was definitely not of human origin. Without a word, Dr. Williams knelt down and carefully inspected the door. The strange symbols around the frame seemed to glow faintly as he touched them, sending a shiver through his spine. He looked at Sarah, who was equally mesmerized by the sight. "We need to get inside," he said, his voice firm. "There's no telling what's inside this thing, but it's not just some random object. This is something important." The team worked together, carefully removing the last few layers of ice. With a sharp, metallic sound, the door to the spaceship opened. A cold breeze rushed out, as if the ship had been sealed in time. The team was left in stunned silence as they gazed into the interior. Inside, everything was preserved perfectly. The ship's interior was almost eerily clean, with rows of strange equipment and technology lining the walls. The air was thick with the smell of ancient machinery, but it was still breathable. As the team ventured deeper into the ship, their flashlights illuminated strange, glowing panels that flickered to life as they approached. It was clear that the technology was still functioning, but there were no signs of life. No crew, no signs of who or what had once occupied this ship. Dr. Williams couldn't believe what he was seeing. His scientific mind raced with possibilities. This ship could be thousands of years old. How did it end up here, in the Arctic, frozen in time? Sarah, still in awe, asked, "Do you think it crashed here, or was it intentionally buried?" "I don't know," Dr. Williams admitted, his eyes scanning the room. "But one thing's for sure, this isn't just some ancient artifact. There's something here we're not seeing yet." The team continued to explore the ship, every corner revealing more and more questions. The mystery deepened as they discovered strange pods, most like stasis, chambers along the walls. Some of the pods were empty, but others still contained figures, their features hidden beneath thick layers of frost. A sense of dread slowly crept over the team. Whatever had happened to this ship and its crew, it was clear that this was no ordinary discovery. And just as the thought of what they had uncovered began to settle in, a loud mechanical hum echoed through the ship. The power was coming back on, and they had just awakened something they might not be able to control. The awakening as the hum of the ship's systems came to life. The air inside the spacecraft seemed to thicken with tension. The strange panels on the walls flickered and blinked, casting eerie light across the cold, metallic surfaces. The team stood frozen, unsure of what to do next. It was as if the ship had been dormant for centuries, and now, by some twist of fate, they had awoken it. Dr. Williams looked at his team, his face a mixture of excitement and fear. "This is incredible. The ship's systems are responding, but we need to proceed with caution. We have no idea what kind of technology we're dealing with here. This could be dangerous." Sarah, who had been standing closest to the panels, stepped back, her hand trembling as she adjusted her glasses. "But what is this? How can it still be functional after all this time?" "Let's find out," Dr. Williams replied, his voice steady as he walked toward the control center of the ship. He gently placed his hand on one of the glowing panels, and to his surprise, the screen flickered to life, displaying an array of alien symbols. They seemed to pulse in rhythm with the hum of the ship, as if the ship itself were alive and breathing. One of the younger scientists, Max, stepped forward, pointing to the screen. "Wait, look at that. Those symbols, are they a language? Can we translate them?" Dr. Williams nodded, his mind racing. "They must be. Let me try something." He reached for the ship's interface, hoping to make some connection with the alien technology. As he touched a few keys, the symbols began to change, slowly forming into words that, to his astonishment, were recognizable though strange. Warning, activation of main system. Unknown life form detected. Initialization process begun. The words hung in the air for a moment before the ship began to tremble. The ground beneath their feet vibrated, and the walls seemed to shift slightly. Dr. Williams stumbled back, grabbing the edge of the console for support. "What just happened?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking with both excitement and fear. "Did we trigger something? Was that message ... directed at us?" Before Dr. Williams could answer, another voice echoed throughout the ship, booming through the speakers like a distant memory. It was mechanical, robotic, and yet it carried an undeniable sense of urgency. Life form detected. Awakening protocols initiated. Prepare for contact. The team exchanged nervous glances. The air felt suddenly colder, and the sense of isolation that had seemed so distant before now seemed inescapable. Something was coming, something that had been dormant for millennia, waiting for the right moment to wake up. Did it say, "Prepare for contact"? Max whispered, his eyes wide. Contact with what? Asterisk Dr. Williams, his mind still reeling from the implications of what he had just heard, quickly gestured for everyone to stay calm. Everyone, stay together. We don't know what's happening, but it's clear we're not alone on this ship. We need to keep our heads on straight and figure out what we're dealing with. As the team gathered around him, the walls began to vibrate again, more intensely this time. Suddenly, the room's lights dimmed, and a soft, mechanical worry echoed through the corridors. The ship's engines slowly began to power up, but the atmosphere grew thick with an unsettling feeling. The air became heavier, and Mark could swear he felt something ... moving. "I don't like this," Sarah muttered, stepping closer to Dr. Williams. "What is this ship? And what's waiting for us?" Before anyone could answer, a loud clang echoed from deeper within the ship. It came from the direction of one of the sealed doors. Dr. Williams turned toward the sound, his pulse quickening. Something, or someone, was coming. The ship wasn't just waking up, Pitt was calling something. Dr. Williams turned to his team, his face grim. "Prepare yourselves. Whatever's behind that door ... It's not just alien technology. It's something alive." With that, he led the way toward the door, which had begun to shift and open on its own, as though recognizing the team's presence. The moment the door creaked open, the temperature seemed to drop even further, and the sound of soft clicking and worry filled the air. A low growl echoed from the darkness behind the door, sending chills down Mark's spine. "Ready your equipment," Dr. Williams whispered. "We don't know what we're about to face." The door finally opened wide, revealing a dark, cavernous room. The lights flickered on, revealing rows of large, transparent tubes. Inside each tube was something alive, humanoid figures suspended in a thick liquid, their bodies perfectly preserved. The figures were clearly not human, their skin a strange shade of pale blue, their faces serene, almost peaceful. But what caught everyone's attention wasn't the sight of these creatures. It was the one figure in the center, standing upright, its eyes wide open, staring directly at them. It was awake, and it was waiting. Asterisk, the awakening of the unknown. The air inside the chamber grew colder with each passing second, the hum of the ship's systems growing louder and more intense. Mark could feel the weight of the moment settle in his chest. The strange figure in the tube, its eyes wide open and fixated on them, seemed to pulse with an eerie life. It wasn't just a statue or a preserved specimen. It was alive, or at least something very much like it. The entire room seemed to pulse with energy, and Mark couldn't shake the feeling that they were intruding on something that had been sleeping for an eternity. The figure was humanoid, its form covered in translucent, shimmering skin that glowed faintly under the artificial light. Its limbs were long and slender, its features sharp and angular, with an almost ethereal beauty. But its eyes, those eyes, were not peaceful. They glowed with a deep, unnerving intelligence, and Mark couldn't tell if they were looking at him or through him. "Dr. Williams," Sarah whispered, her voice shaking, "what is that thing?" Dr. Williams took a cautious step forward, his eyes fixed on the figure. It's hard to say. It looks like it's been preserved in a stasis field, just like the ship. But why would they keep something like this alive? Why not just leave it as a specimen? His question hung in the air, unanswered, as the ship's lights flickered again. The hum grew louder, vibrating through their bones, and Mark's heart began to race. He couldn't explain it, but the ship felt like it was waking up, coming to life around them. The walls seemed to shift, the floor groaning under the strain of the power coursing through it. Then, as if responding to their presence, the figure in the tube slowly began to move. The hum of the ship intensified, the creature's body jerking slightly as if awakening from a long slumber. Its eyes locked onto them, and for a split second, Mark swore he could feel a deep connection, like the creature was trying to communicate, but couldn't. It moved again, this time more deliberately, and the liquid in the tube began to drain, the creature's body becoming more visible with each passing second. Max, the youngest of the team, stepped back nervously. Is it ... Is it trying to get out? Before anyone could answer, the creature made a loud, guttural noise, unlike anything Mark had ever heard. It wasn't a cry of pain or distress. It was a command, almost like a signal. Mark could see the creature's chest rising and falling, the slow and deliberate rhythm of its breathing, a sign that it was fully alive. We need to leave. Now, Max said urgently, his voice filled with panic. This is way beyond anything we were prepared for. But it was too late. The creature's eyes flickered once more, and a sharp metallic sound rang out from the walls of the chamber. The ship had responded to its awakening. Don't panic, Dr. Williams said, his voice steady, though his face betrayed his unease. We need to stay calm. The ship is reacting to the figure. It's possible this creature has some sort of control over the ship's systems. The moment Dr. Williams spoke those words, the ship's control panels came to life, blinking with activity. A low rumble shook the room as the walls began to shift and slide, revealing more of the ship's complex inner workings. Mark's heart raced as he realized the ship wasn't just a dormant relic, was an active, sentient entity, and whatever had been in stasis was the key to its power. The creature's body began to shift again, its fingers twitching as it reached toward the glass of the tube. For the first time, Mark could see its face. Clearly its skin was a translucent blue, its features sharp and alien, its eyes, wide and intelligent, locked onto him, and for the briefest moment, Mark felt a wave of cold wash over him. It wasn't just looking at him, it was studying him, analyzing him, understanding him in a way no human could. Why is it staring at us like that? Sarah asked, her voice tight with fear. It's trying to communicate, Dr. Williams replied. Stepping forward cautiously, I think it recognizes us. Suddenly, the creature's body jerked violently, the glass of its tube shattering with an ear-splitting crash. Mark and Sarah jumped back, but Dr. Williams stood frozen, his eyes wide, with realization. It's alive. And it's not alone, Dr. Williams murmured. The ground beneath them shook as if the ship itself was coming to life. The creature stepped forward, its long, slender legs moving with an unnatural grace. Its eyes never left Dr. Williams, and, as it opened its mouth, a soft, melodic hum filled the room. It was speaking, or at least trying to. The hum was unlike anything they had ever heard, a language that resonated deep within their minds, vibrating through their bones. The creature's gaze shifted toward the rest of the team, its voice growing louder. It was calling to them, communicating a message they couldn't understand. But Mark felt something, a deep, primal pull like the creature was trying to connect with them on a level they weren't prepared for. "We need to get out of here," Max urged, his voice high with panic. "It's not safe. We don't know what it wants." But Dr. Williams shook his head, his eyes locked onto the creature. "It's not dangerous. Not yet. We just need to understand what it's saying. It's asking for help." Asterisk the revelation and the choices the alien creature continued to hum. A strange, almost hypnotic melody reverberated through the ship's walls. Mark felt a strange pull, as if the sound was resonating with something deep inside him. The creature's eyes never left them, its gaze intense and calculating. The room seemed to grow colder, the air thick with a sense of anticipation. Dr. Williams stepped closer to the creature, despite the tension that gripped his team. "It's trying to tell us something. It's been dormant for centuries, but now it's awake. It wants to communicate." Mark looked at Sarah, who was visibly nervous, but trying to maintain her composure. "Do you think it can communicate with us? I mean, how are we supposed to understand what it's saying?" Before Dr. Williams could respond, the creature raised its long, slender arm and extended its hand toward them. The action was graceful, fluid, but there was an underlying sense of power in its movement. Mark instinctively took a step back, his heart pounding in his chest. He wasn't sure if he was ready for whatever was coming next, but the pull of the creature's presence was undeniable. Sarah stepped forward cautiously. "Dr. Williams, what's happening? What does it want from us?" Dr. Williams didn't answer immediately. He was too focused on the creature, his eyes narrowing as he tried to decipher the alien's intentions. The ship's systems seemed to be responding, lights flickering and low hums vibrating through the walls. I think it's showing us something," Dr. Williams murmured, his voice filled with awe. "The ship is alive, and it's responding to the creature. We're not just dealing with technology here. We're dealing with a living entity, and it's reaching out to us." Mark swallowed hard, trying to suppress the growing sense of unease. "Living entity, do you think? It's dangerous." "I don't know," Dr. Williams replied, his eyes scanning the creature's movements. "But I think we need to understand it before we make any decisions. We need to learn what it wants." The creature's eyes locked onto Dr. Williams with an intensity that seemed to pierce through him. It made another soft humming sound, and this time the vibrations were so strong that Mark could feel them in his chest. It wasn't just a sound. It was like the ship itself was resonating with the creature's presence. And then, just as quickly as it had started, the humming stopped. The creature took a step back, its body language shifting. It seemed to pause, as if considering something, before it extended its hand again, this time toward Dr. Williams. The motion was clear, it was offering something. A choice. Dr. Williams hesitated. "What is it offering?" he whispered. "What does it want us to do?" Mark's gaze flickered to Sarah. "What if it's a trap? What if we're not meant to be here? What if the ship is testing us?" Sarah shook her head. "I don't think it's a trap. It doesn't seem hostile. It seems ... almost desperate." Dr. Williams stepped forward cautiously, his mind racing. There was something he wasn't telling them, something he had pieced together. The ship, it's part of an ancient fleet. These creatures ... they're not just explorers. They were soldiers. And this ship, it's not just a ship. It's a weapon. It was created to conquer, to protect. But it's also capable of destruction. Mark's stomach tightened. So, this isn't just a discovery of alien life. It's a discovery of a potential weapon, And now it's awake. Yes, Dr. Williams said, his voice barely a whisper. But it's not just the ship. The creature, whatever it is, it's tied to the ship. It's part of its activation. And now it's giving us a choice. We have to decide whether to let it continue. It can lead us to power, knowledge, and technology, but at what cost? The creature's gaze softened, as if it understood the weight of Dr. Williams' words. The ship's systems hummed again, and Mark could feel the air shift, becoming heavier, with the knowledge that they were standing on the edge of something monumental. The alien was asking for their help, or maybe offering them a path they couldn't yet understand. What happens if we don't choose? Sarah asked quietly. Dr. Williams turned to her, his face a mix of uncertainty and fear. I don't know, but if we refuse, the ship might go dormant again. It could shut down, and we may never have the chance to understand it. Or it could respond differently. It could see us as a threat. Mark's mind raced. This was no longer just a scientific discovery. It was an existential choice, one that could change everything. He looked back at the creature, standing motionless now, waiting for a decision. He turned to Dr. Williams. What are we supposed to do? How do we decide? Dr. Williams took a deep breath. We need to understand what it wants. We need to see if we can control it, if we can work with it. But if we can't, we may have to destroy it. The weight of the decision pressed down on them, the future of humanity now tied to a single moment. The creature's eyes seemed to wait, as if it was aware of the magnitude of the decision. And Mark realized that whatever choice they made now could alter the course of human history. The choice that could change everything. The weight of the moment hung thick in the air. The creature stood motionless, its eyes unwavering, its presence almost imposing as the soft hum of the ship's systems echoed around them. Mark could feel the hairs on his neck stand up. The decision they had to make felt impossible. Whatever this creature wanted, whatever the ship was offering, it was far beyond anything the team had prepared for. They were standing at the edge of something immense, a doorway to knowledge, power, and perhaps destruction. Dr. Williams paced in front of the alien creature, his mind racing. This is beyond anything we've ever encountered. This ship, the technology, it's centuries, maybe even millennia ahead of us. But if we accept its offer, we might be giving up control. We could be handing over humanity's future to something we don't understand. His words seemed to echo in the room, bouncing off the metallic walls, adding to the tension. The creature remained silent, its eyes still locked onto Dr. Williams, as if it were waiting for the humans to make up their minds. The stillness in the air was unbearable, the soft buzzing of the ship's technology filling the empty spaces between their thoughts. I'm not sure we have the luxury of hesitation anymore, Sarah said, her voice breaking the silence. She walked toward the creature, her steps tentative but determined. If this ship is capable of what it seems to be, we can't afford to ignore it. We could learn so much, far more than we could ever imagine. This is a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But what if it's a mistake? Max interjected, his face filled with uncertainty. What if this creature is just leading us down a path we're not ready for? We don't know what it's really offering. What if it's manipulating us? Or what if it's offering us something humanity desperately needs? Sarah replied sharply, turning to face Max. Think of what we could do with this technology. Think of how we could evolve as a species. We've been struggling with the same issues for centuries, Max. Climate change, conflict, disease. This could change all of that. Mark watched the interaction, torn between the two extremes. Sarah's optimism was tempting. The idea of solving humanity's greatest problems with alien technology was an exciting prospect. But Max's warning echoed in his mind. There was something unnerving about how the creature was presenting this to them. It wasn't just asking, it was offering, like a deal made by someone who knew the cost of their gift. Dr. Williams looked at Mark, then back at the creature. It's giving us a choice, but at what cost? What happens if we don't take its offer? What if it sees us as unworthy? The creature seemed to respond, tilting its head slightly, the movement fluid, almost human-like. Its large eyes flickered, as if acknowledging Dr. Williams' fear, and it made a low, almost soothing hum. The ship. Dr. Williams continued, his voice gaining a tone of resolution. It's not just an artifact. It's part of something much larger. This creature and this ship, they're connected to a larger force. If we refuse its offer, we might be sealing our fate. The creature stepped forward again, its limbs moving with an eerie grace. It reached out one long, slender arm, and Dr. Williams flinched as it came closer. But the creature's movement was slow, deliberate, and non-threatening. It stopped just in front of Dr. Williams and, for the first time, seemed to acknowledge their shared presence. It wasn't attacking. It wasn't threatening. Instead, it seemed to be trying to communicate urgently, but without force. Mark stepped forward, breaking the silence. What do we do? His voice was almost a whisper. We don't understand the full consequences of what's in front of us. How can we make this choice? Dr. Williams paused, his hand hovering over the control panel, the ancient alien symbols still glowing faintly in the darkened room. He turned back to face the team, his expression one of solemn contemplation. This ship is not just an object, he said, his voice quieter now. It's a weapon, a living thing, and a key to unlocking a power far greater than anything we could ever develop on Earth. But if we unlock it, we risk awakening something we may not be able to control. The creature made another motion, almost like it was urging Dr. Williams to make a decision, and in that moment, the gravity of their situation hit Mark harder than ever. They were about to make a choice that could change the course of human history. This alien technology had the potential to lift humanity to new heights or to destroy everything they knew. A sudden realization dawned on Mark. Maybe it's not just about us. Maybe this is about whether humanity is ready for this power. Maybe the choice isn't ours to make at all. The creature's gaze seemed to soften as it looked at Mark, its eyes almost reflecting an understanding that was far beyond the scientist's reach. Was it testing them? Was it waiting for them to prove something? Or was it simply observing, like an ancient being that had witnessed countless civilizations rise and fall? We don't have time to wait, Sarah said, her voice filled with a sense of urgency. If we don't act, we could lose the chance to do something extraordinary. We can't let fear dictate our future. Dr. Williams stood silently for a moment longer, his gaze fixed on the creature. It was as though the weight of their decision hung in the balance, and the entire ship was waiting for them to make the final move. Finally, with a heavy sigh, Dr. Williams stepped forward and placed his hand on the ship's interface, initiating a response from the creature. It's now or never. We have to trust that this is the right choice. We'll activate the ship's systems, and we'll see where it leads us. But remember, this is a decision that will affect all of us. If we're wrong, we may never get another chance. As the systems of the ship roared to life, Mark felt the ground beneath them shake slightly, the walls humming with power. The creature's eyes glowed brighter as the ship's energy began to pulse. Asterisk. The awakening force, the hum of the ship grew louder as the systems powered up, vibrating through the walls and sending a tremor through the floor. Mark and the team stood, motionless, their eyes wide as the ship's core seemed to come alive. The glowing symbols around them flickered rapidly, their mysterious energy intensifying as if reacting to the choices they had made. There was no turning back now. Dr. Williams stood at the center of the control panel, his hands steady but his mind racing. "We've activated it," he muttered to himself. "There's no going back. Now we have to understand what we've awakened." The alien creature, still standing in the center of the room, seemed to grow more animated. Its eyes flickered with energy, and its elongated fingers twitched. It was as though it had been waiting for this moment, and now, as the ship's systems came to life, it was ready to lead them into whatever awaited beyond. As the systems hummed and the room was bathed in a cold blue light, the creature began to speak again. But this time, its voice wasn't the same as before. It was no longer the melodic hum that had reverberated through their bones. It was now clear, structured, and intelligible, the words ringing in their minds like a voice echoing in their thoughts. "You have awakened the dormant forces. The ship is yours now, but with it comes a price." The words echoed, and Mark felt a strange pressure in his chest. It was like the creature's voice was reaching into his very soul, pulling at something deep within him. He wasn't sure how to react. Was it a warning, a threat, or was it something more? "What price?" Sarah asked, her voice steady, but there was a flicker of fear in her eyes. She had always been the most rational one of the team, but now even she seemed unnerved by the sudden change in atmosphere. The creature's eyes narrowed, and for the first time it moved, slowly and deliberately. It took a step forward, its movements fluid, almost graceful. It raised its hand and pointed to the large, glowing screen on the wall. The ship's interface displayed new data and encrypted transmission, unlike anything the team had ever seen. "This ship," the creature continued, its voice now both calm and commanding, "was once part of a fleet that was sent to conquer and protect. But something happened, something terrible. The fleet was divided, and the war that followed left the remnants of this vessel frozen, waiting for a time when the power could be awakened once more." Mark could feel the tension rising in the room. He was no longer just standing in the presence of alien technology. He was standing at the threshold of something that had the potential to reshape the future. But what kind of future would it be? "What is it you want from us?" Dr. Williams asked, his voice full of both curiosity and caution. "You said the ship is ours now, but what does that mean for us?" The creature's gaze met his, and for a moment it was as if time itself stood still. The ship's lights flickered, and the hum seemed to vibrate the very air around them. "The power you've awakened is both a gift and a burden," the creature said slowly, its words deliberate. "You are the inheritors of a war that is not yet over. The enemies we fought long ago are still out there, waiting. They will come, and when they do, you will need this ship to survive. But the question is not whether you can fight them, it's whether you will." Mark's heart pounded in his chest. The weight of the creature's words hit him like a physical blow. They were not just explorers anymore. They were caught in something far greater than their understanding, thrust into a conflict that spanned galaxies and centuries. "So, you're saying that we're supposed to fight an alien war that's been ongoing for eons?" Sarah asked, incredulous. "How are we supposed to do that?" The creature's eyes glowed brighter, its expression almost solemn. The ship has the power to protect, but it requires a bond with its occupants, a connection to its new masters. You must learn to control it, to make it yours. And if you fail, you will not survive. Dr. Williams took a step back, the implications of the creature's words sinking in. This wasn't just about studying alien technology. This wasn't just about discovery. This was about survival. Humanity was being drawn into a galactic war they never knew existed. "We don't have time to waste," Dr. Williams said, his voice firm. "We need to learn everything about this ship. If what the creature is saying is true, then Earth is in more danger than we thought." But as he spoke, the lights flickered again, and the entire ship seemed to hum with anticipation. The screen in front of them blinked, displaying more encrypted messages, coordinates, strange symbols, and a map of stars that were far beyond their reach. Mark stepped forward, staring at the map. "Is this a map of the enemy's location?" he asked, his voice filled with a mix of fear and curiosity. The creature nodded slowly, its long, slender fingers brushing across the air. The map shifted, zooming in on a distant star system. The coordinates were clear. This was no longer just a warning. This was an invitation. "The enemy is coming," the creature said, its voice heavy with finality. "The war has begun again. You must decide. Will you fight or will you perish?" The weight of the decision hung in the air. Mark and the team stood in silence, the enormity of the situation settling over them. The fate of humanity, of their world, was now tied to an alien ship, its strange, powerful technology, and a galactic war they had no preparation for. But the question remained, could they truly control this power? And if they could, would they be ready when the enemy arrived? The first confrontation. The room was silent, the weight of the creature's words pressing heavily on everyone. The team stood in awe, trying to grasp the magnitude of what they had just been told. They were no longer just researchers. They were the last line of defense in a war that had been waged long before they were born. The power of the ship pulsed in the air, and the alien presence in front of them seemed to grow even more imposing. Mark's heart raced as he stared at the map on the ship's screen. The coordinates were clear, showing a distant star system one. That was unknown to them, yet it felt so incredibly familiar. The enemy's location was marked, and the threat they posed was undeniable. There was no longer any doubt that Earth was in imminent danger. The question wasn't if the enemy would commit, was when. "I don't think we're ready for this," Max said, his voice shaky, his face pale. "We've barely even begun to understand this ship's technology, and now we're supposed to use it to fight an intergalactic war." Dr. Williams turned to face Max, his expression resolute. "We don't have a choice. The enemy won't wait for us to prepare. We're in this whether we like it or not." As the ship's systems continued to hum, Sarah moved to the console, her eyes scanning the data flashing across the screen. "There's something more," she said, pointing to a section of the map. "Look at this. It's not just coordinates. It's a series of markers, like points of interest. These could be sites we need to reach." Dr. Williams stepped closer, his brow furrowing as he examined the information. "These must be critical locations, key sites, where we can make a stand or activate defenses. If we can reach these points before the enemy does, we may have a chance." But even as Dr. Williams spoke, the creature seemed to grow restless. Its eyes glowed brighter, and the ship's hum grew more intense. It wasn't just reacting to the team's actions, it was reacting to something else. The lights on the ship flickered suddenly, and the soft, eerie rumble that had been felt in the walls intensified. It was as if the ship itself had become a living being, aware and connected to the outside world in ways the humans could not yet understand. "The enemy is closer than we thought," Dr. Williams said, turning to the team with urgency in his voice. "We don't have much time. If we're going to act, it needs to be now." As if on cue, a loud, resonant noise filled the air, a deep, mechanical hum that seemed to come from every corner of the ship. It wasn't just the ship's systems powering up, it was something else entirely. A distant voice crackled over the intercom, a harsh, distorted sound that seemed almost artificial. "Warning, hostile fleet approaching. Estimated arrival, 12 hours. The message was brief but chilling, and everyone in the room froze, the reality of the situation settling in. The enemy was coming, and they had no way of knowing exactly what they would face when they arrived. The tension was palpable, the weight of the decision pressing down on the team. They had no choice but to act. "We need to prepare," Dr. Williams said, his voice unwavering. "The ship can defend us, but we need to activate the systems first. Sarah, Max, start working on the control panels. Mark, you're with me. We need to figure out how to access the weapon systems." As the team scrambled to prepare, Mark felt a sense of urgency that he hadn't experienced before. The gravity of the situation was unlike anything he had ever faced. This wasn't just a scientific discovery, it was a fight for survival. He turned to Dr. Williams, his heart pounding in his chest. "Do you think we can control it?" Mark asked, his voice tight with anxiety. "Do you really think we can stop an alien fleet with this technology?" Dr. Williams hesitated, his eyes focused on the ship's glowing console. "I don't know, Mark, but we don't have a choice. We have to try."